All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Up and In Show. We are in Cards and Culture on the purple couch dealing with some good construction noise outside, so if you guys hear some stuff, bear with us. But I got a really special guest today. I'm excited because you're a very busy man, but Jay Johnson, the head coach of LSU Baseball, is with us, and excited to dive in and get to know you a little bit.
Thanks, Anthony. Happy to be here.
Well, I feel like we've done this like 4 or 5 times now where we've sat down and I'm like, dude, tell me something about you. So this is going to be stuff we've talked about before. But I think what the listeners like to enjoy about my podcast is they'll see you from the surface, they'll see you on the field, they'll see you in a uniform. But we get to, peel some layers back and talk a little bit about you as a person, your journey, how you got here, and give a little bit of insight of what it takes to be an LSU baseball coach, some of the things you look for, with athletes, and just a little bit about your journey so people get to know you as the person. And I think people really enjoy that stuff. So we'll, for the 3rd or 4th time, tell us a little bit about your background, how you started in baseball. We'll start there.
Yeah, I grew up in the house of a coach. My dad was a very successful track and football coach at a small town in Northern California, very much like Louisiana.
Northern California, like Louisiana?
Yes. It's 30 miles, small town, 30 miles, small town, hunting, fishing,
nice.
That type of thing. So this feels very normal, to me. When you think of California, sometimes you don't think of it that way, but up above Sacramento, that's kind of the way that it is. So almost its own state in that regard. Nice. So when I'm 8, 9 years old, I'm running the football in and out when the offense changes to defense. I'm watching game tape, with my dad. So really competitive athletics is all I've ever really known. He was a great example in terms of character, in terms of work ethic, in terms of building teams, and motivating, all of those types of things. So had a pretty narrow focus. I thought one day I was going to win the Heisman Trophy.
That's good.
Didn't see too many 5'7", 165-pound running backs tearing up Division I football, though. So kind of moved towards baseball in college, and and really once I stopped playing, I started coaching. Like, it was a pretty simple transition, and really for the last 20 plus years, college baseball is all I've known, all I've done. So I've been pretty lucky to kind of have a very narrow path.
Yeah. Did you always want to be a college baseball coach? Was there ever that I want to try professional ranks, that kind of stuff?
This is my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
College baseball is where it's at for me, for a number of reasons. I don't know that I said, hey, this was what I was going to do.
Right.
I don't know if I wasn't doing this, there's no plan B, so to speak. Yeah.
That's awesome. I was like, and I think it'll be interesting to see how it goes. You'll probably have more opportunities in the future too. But I always appreciate, like, Will Wade's story was really interesting to me always. I never got a chance to interview him or talk to him while he was here, but it was like he knew he wanted to be a college coach, or at least a coach from day one. So I always appreciated that. What about when you were done with baseball? There was no other career thing that you wanted to go into?
Yeah, no. When I finished my eligibility, I was not done with school yet. So the first thing was to make sure I got my degree.
Gotcha.
Was a good student, but had to work really hard to do it. Yeah. And so finished up school. There's maybe a 6-month period where you're kind of like, okay, I'm done as a player.
Yeah.
What am I going to do now? And then my coach at Point Loma, Scott Sarver, said, hey, I think you could be really good at this, and had me help that year after I was done playing, just as kind of like an undergrad assistant.
Yeah.
And just kind of dove in and went for it, and tried to kind of make it my own deal. And then as the year was moving towards the end, he's like, hey, you need to be a part of our staff and do this. Nice. And so and then it was really fast. I mean, it's 24 years old, and you're coaching third base, you're doing all the recruiting, learning on the fly, making mistakes. And I got a really good head start on that because of him. Like, a lot of young coaches don't get a lot of autonomy. He was a really good mentor at that time, and I treated that job like I was the coach at LSU.
Yeah.
And a few years later, got to be the head coach there, and was off and moving.
Talk to me a little bit about, I think it's really interesting to me, and I think people will be like, well, they see you now at LSU, right? And I think something really interesting that I picked up on was you said there was that 6-month period, right, where you didn't know and you were still a student. you had an opportunity. Somebody gave you an opportunity there. So what were some of the things that you did when you were, had that opportunity where your coach at the end of the year was like, you need to take these steps and be a part of our staff?
Yeah, I think I'm an all-in kind of guy.
Yeah.
I'm not very diverse just in terms of interest.
Right.
Like it's kind of like, if this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I think I have a lot of respect for people that are good at a lot of things.
Right.
I've never really been able to like operate at a high level that way. And so, knowing or having a coaching background and then getting an opportunity, it's like, hey, make the most of it,
Yeah.
And so I dove right in terms of trying to work with players one-on-one, trying to help out in recruiting, scouting reports, all the things that I thought would help us advance that team that year. And, wasn't making any money doing it at the time, but got into it pretty hard and got a bug or an itch about winning. I think success and winning does not come easily, but the challenge and the pursuit of it is something that really, really drives me. And so I think my coach just saw probably the same things he saw in me as a player. I was applying those things to coaching and was fortunate enough to get that opportunity.
Yeah, that's what I think people miss out on, right? And that was like these silver linings and opportunities and things like that where you took advantage of them and you worked hard and you instilled those things, and that set you up for the rest of your life and opened up more doors for you. And I think people just see the end result and they forget how hard those little and it was not glorified. You weren't getting paid, right? Nobody probably saw those things that you were doing or those moments that you were spending with those players.
Yeah, no doubt. And, it kind of even goes back further. I remember being a junior college, second baseman. And when I went to Point Loma, it was like, hey, man, it's a full tank of gas, and my grandpa gave me $100 bill. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like I had to get a job while I was playing college baseball.
Yep.
And so, just work ethic, really good. Like I said, I mentioned my dad, my mom's the same way. My brother is the same way. It's just like, you have to put effort towards things. You have to put focus towards things, having this attitude that nothing is going to be given to you. You have to go out and earn it. And it's a lot like baseball. It's not always the team with the best players. It's the team that plays the best that day. Like, you have to earn wins. We celebrate wins because there's a lead-up process to get to that result.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that's like now instilled in you in your DNA, right? I mean, well, it was already then, but now you've honed it, grown it, done it, and now you're instilling it in these LSU players, well, probably, all your stops, right? And that's the thing that I think people look at and don't understand, and the ability to be able to take advantage of that moment, then carry that forward and instill it in other people as you go too, and replicate your process is pretty cool. So I appreciate that, because as a business owner, right, people are always asking, how can I get in there? How can I work as an employee? How do I get to be where you're at or whatever? And I'm sure people say the same thing to you as an LSU baseball coach, and it's those little moments and opportunities.
Yeah, for sure. And I think staying in them and being focused on them, and I didn't come to work, one day hoping to be the coach at LSU when I was at Point Loma or San Diego or Nevada or Arizona. It was all about that place and those people. And I think it's society. It's very easy to get caught up in the end result, especially in athletics, because the people outside the arena, that's all they look at and they care about.
Yes.
But there's so much more to it than just that win or that loss on that game day that gets you to that win, that's where the value is. And so I've really tried to focus that and really instill that in our players. It's like, it's not just winning, but how we're going to win, how we're going to be successful. That's where you make your money or your value.
Yeah. Is that a value system that's instilled from you, from when you're saying from your dad, watching him as a...
Yeah, I think it's kind of evolved. I think when you're young and you're immature, right. I mean, your tendency to go is like, hey, did we win?
Yep.
I remember being a young player, and I hate to admit it sometimes. It's like my mood. I always treated people well, but my internal mood, how I felt, was based on how many hits I had that day. And that is the absolute wrong way to think.
Yeah, just riding that wave.
Exactly, and especially in baseball. And it's why I actually enjoyed, and to this day, like football is probably my first love, and because it's read, reaction, and I was a better football player than I was a baseball player because of that part of it. Well, what that did, as I've tried to use that as like a model for coaching going forward and help players not fall into that trap and get focused on what they need to do to be successful within a game, within a week, within a fall baseball practice, within a season, and not label things, but be immersed in what we need to do to get what we want and not just focus on what we want.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive that you had that perspective at a young age, but now that you're instilling it in kids too. And that's got to be such a hard thing in today's world of immediate satisfaction, right? Like you don't win, it feels like everything, or whatever, you go 0 for 3, you go to Twitter, you go to Instagram, like all these things, and like people are ragging you, it makes you feel even worse, right? So that's a new thing too that you have to deal with, I'm sure.
Yeah, and there's one way to do it is don't. I mean, and I just,
exactly.
Personally, what I try to convey to the players is like, there's only one group of people that understand what's happening in here on a daily basis, and it's us. Therefore, the only opinion that should matter is us. And helping each other, through the difficulty. Because the one thing I can promise any team that I coach is we are going to face adversity within a game, within a weekend, within a stretch of the season, within a season. And how you respond to that will ultimately determine, where you end up. There's a guy named Brian Kite who's phenomenal. He's a motivational guy. I'm sending stuff to our team all the time from him. And he came up with this thing. It's like you have an event, okay? Plus R equals the response. Your response to the event will equal your outcome. And I mean, that's life. I mean, failure is never fatal unless you allow it to be and compound. And success is never final. And so you could have a great win, a great season. All I've ever done at the end of a year is move on to the next thing. It's kind of like my way of dealing with the finality of that season being over. But any past success we have has nothing to do with the future. So you have to respond, move forward, and that will ultimately determine your outcomes.
I love that. And it helps so much in baseball and in life, right? Because so many of the events are uncontrollable. And once you understand that, really all you're in control of is that response, that R, right?
Correct.
And that's how you live your life. And then the more that you do that and you perfect that and you understand that too, then it sets you up blueprints for the future, right? Oh,
100%.
we lost today. What's the response? Oh, the response is what can we learn? What can we pull? How can we grow? Boom, that becomes ingrained in you. And anytime you lose or give up a home run or make a bad pitch, it's now that response is ingrained in you.
100%. I mean, we had a game last Friday. We were down 6-2 in the fourth inning. We had an inning get away from us. Made a bad play in the field, and 4 runs went up on the board, or 6 runs went up on the board like that. And it was we were coming in to hit in the bottom of the 5th, and I looked at the team. I was like, hey, look, we're gonna win this game if we just stay focused on right now and not try to do too much. And I was really proud of the players. Like, we put up a 4 and immediately tied the game 6-6, and then got 1 across in the next inning and 1 maybe in the 8th, and won a 1-run game. And so those things are really valuable because you can always go back and draw from them.
Right.
But that was a perfect example of, hey, bad inning. We had our guy on the mound. I don't even know if he'd given up an earned run yet to that point in the season, and got kicked in the teeth a little bit. But the team picked him up because they responded well to the failure, and ultimately the outcome was success.
Yeah, and like you said, now next time if you're ever down 6-0 on a Friday night, it's like, and I talk about this. So the girl that I dated was a beach volleyball player, and she was playing the Olympics, and we were talking about fear and nervousness and things like that. The brain just needs to know that you can do it once, and that's how you build confidence. You just keep doing it, right? So next time you're down 4-0, 5-0, if your Friday night guy gets kicked in the teeth, it's like, we've done this shit before. Like,
no doubt,
we're good. We got this, and it's a whole nother confidence level.
Yeah, no doubt. And we're still early in the deal here this year, and there's challenges going forward. But the one real positive is, we've been really good in close games. We're 2-0 in 1-run games, 3-0 in games of 2 or less. And that's something we really instilled from the fall. It was the numbers in those games for LSU last year were not great. And it's like, hey, we're going to be awesome at this, and then here's how we're going to do that. Now our team, I think, has a lot of belief in those tight games that they can come through and get the job done. So you're 100% right about that.
I love it. I also love that you said belief just now too, because one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is, I've been around the team a little bit. It's been less because I don't have the same coaching staff and friends that are there, but I do know some of the players, been to the first pitch banquet, spent some time with you, and obviously I'm ingrained in the LSU baseball community. You've made believers out of fans and players and things like that. Talk to me a little bit about the difficulty and how you've done it too, but like bringing a team that was already successful last year and then having them jump on board so like strongly this year.
Yeah, I love that challenge. Yeah. First off, it's like, and one of the things I told our team right away is like, hey, look, like you don't have to trust me or our staff right away. Like it's our job to earn that.
Right.
Okay, we're gonna do that. Okay, by how we roll, so to speak. But if you want to achieve things quickly, the buy-in factor has to start right now. So it's kind of like I'm telling them two different things.
Exactly.
You don't have to do this, but we're gonna
win.
But we're gonna earn it. But yeah, if you want to accomplish some things,
right.
like we don't have time.
Right.
And I think they've really braced our staff. I think we've earned their trust. I think that'll be important going forward. It's just like there's gonna be more success. You cannot get complacent in it. There's going to be more failure. You can't get, thwarted by it, for lack of a better word, and continue to move forward and do the things that we need to do. I mean, we've played 17 games, and we haven't won or played great in all 17 games, but I like where their approach is at. And so for me, that's the sense of buy-in that I feel good about. But I think it's just earning people's trust by doing what you say, saying what you do, repeating it, having your stuff together. Sometimes I use a little different word, on a daily basis. The ability to move on and get focused on the next task and improve and work with guys one-on-one and all of that type of stuff. And really, like, it's just be yourself. A lot of people talk about being very process oriented, but they don't define their process. So is it really a process?
Process?
So we have a pretty deliberate way of doing things. And I think being consistent in them, hopefully, continues to have the players and everybody supporting what we're doing. And they're seeing a brand of baseball or a way a program is operating at a level like, hey, I can get behind that. And so that's really the goal. And then for me, I know it sounds crazy, the wins, they take care of themselves if all of that stuff is in order.
Yeah, no, to me it doesn't sound crazy. I know to some fans they'll be like, "What? Winning is everything, right?" But I think and you're building a culture, you're building a system here, and like you said, a process and stuff like that. So, and you've done a tremendous job. I mean, walking around the first pitch banquet, walking around here, walking in, having people come in the shop and asking questions and talking about it. The energy is just different this year, and not that I was nervous about it, but I was unsure, right? I'd never seen a coaching change.
Totally fair. And look at who we're talking about. I mean, you're talking about Coach Bertman.
Right.
I mean, he was Nick Saban of college baseball.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, that's the best way I can explain it. Or John Wooden of college baseball. And then Coach Maneri. I mean, national champion, went to Omaha 6 times, I think, in his career, 5 times here. The SEC success is remarkable and made it attractive to come here. I mean, I'm dead serious. This is the only job in the country I would have left my job for.
I believe it, dude. I mean, like, this is a special place and that kind of stuff. I really do. But this just popped in my head as you were saying that. I respect you a lot. I appreciate your teachings and things like that. I'm excited to develop our friendship and stuff and learn from you. But something I struggled with in my life, I loved being the underdog. So I loved coming in. So, right, there's 2 different perspectives of coming in a program. You can come in and clean up the program, and it's like there's not a lot of, hey, you guys won 20 games last year. I don't have to do a lot, right? They won 40 games last year. There's All-Americans on this team. There's expectations. There's coaches. Talk to me a little bit about even how you coach up kids versus expectation versus being the underdog, right? There's a whole totally different approach.
Man, there's a lot in what you just said.
That was a lot.
There.
I was like, we could definitely talk
I'll
about
be honest,
this for a minute.
I'm kind of playing both sides of it right now.
Yeah.
It's like, and I said this quote to our players. I think I might even said it to you at the first pitch banquet is, hey, man, there's something special about putting on this gold jersey or this purple jersey. Like when the TV turns on, you know exactly who's playing when you see one of those jerseys. Okay, so we're gonna act like we're number 1. Okay, but we're gonna work like we're number 2.
Yeah.
And I can actually play both sides of this because, I mean, LSU finished in 9th place in the SEC last year.
Nice.
And like right now, we're a middle tier SEC program. Regardless of if anybody wants to hear that or not, that's the fact. Right. So we kind of can have this like, hey man, we're gonna be the dog that's just fighting to get to the bowl with all the big ones. At the same time, we got very good players on our team that need to focus on their play. And if they do that, they can be really, really successful. And it can be a team effort. Now, last night's game, we used 7 pitchers. You know what I mean? By design, not because we're saving anybody or anything like that, but by putting them in position to be successful. You know, in the 8th inning, we're up 6-5, and Josh Pearson, who's going to be a great player here, comes up and hits a double. We just pinch ran Drew Bianco, who made an unbelievable you know, instinct play on the bases to be able to score from first as he saw the relay throw go into second and just kind of kept running. So when you get that, you can build a kind of a sense of team and everybody contributing. And there's guys that I want to play and I want to pitch that aren't at the forefront of it yet. And I mean, that's just because it's LSU. So we're kind of on both of these dynamics of like, hey, it's about the play. And if we play good, we can and we'll beat anybody in the country. At the same time, we're not it right now. You know what I mean? We don't have, I guess we do because we brought in 3 transfers, but not one LSU player has been to Omaha yet that's on the roster right now. And so they want to do stuff like that and experience those things. So I think the internal competitiveness and fight and all of those things is really good, but I really want them to do that with confidence because, you know, you and all the guys that have played here, there's just something different when you walk in that ballpark and that purple or gold jersey is on, and there's an advantage that comes along with that. And we want to make sure we don't lose that either.
Dude, I love it. I love listening to you talk and the psychology and just understanding your mindset around preparing a team and competition and stuff. That's really cool just to even hear that because, like, and these are the things that I'm like, if I was playing, I would come to you and be like, dude, all of a sudden I'm the #1 pitcher in Korea, right? And they're paying me $1.1 million, and this is a completely different role for me going into spring training than being the 6th guy, you know, and fighting for that 5th spot. So that's why I appreciate these kinds of conversations, and I know that, you know, a lot of people deal with a lot of those types of mindset things, but it all comes down to the mindset and the collective group too. Like, that's the thing. I love that, and you've instilled that in those guys. So we've talked a lot about you as a person, your mindset. Talk to us a little bit real quick before I let you go about the X's and O's, the things that you've liked about the teams. We don't have to get into specific players, but talk to us a little bit about the on-field play so far and what you've seen.
Yeah, I think, you know, I'm an offensive guy, so I always start there. It doesn't mean it's the most important part of the game. I actually don't think that it is, but it's kind of my wheelhouse. I think
sexy too.
People love it. Yeah, it's like, you know, a football team that scores 60 points is a lot of fun to watch.
Nice,
you know, I think it starts with the first, you know, the top of the lineup. When you look at Trey Morgan, is as good a pure hitter as I think I've coached. And, I mean, a lot of it for him is just about keeping this right. He's such a good competitor. Like, that's not really a challenge either. The only person that'll stop Trey is Trey, you know. So him setting the table, I think Dylan Cruz is special. I think it's one of those guys that I would tell people around here, like, you need to enjoy what you're watching, you know, when he steps to the plate. You know, Jacob Berry, great addition. You know, he was one of the best freshmen in college baseball and has certainly carried that over here. Kay Doty, you know, local guy, I think is one of the best players in the country. I mean, sometimes maybe he gets overshadowed because those 3 guys. Braden Jobert has really been a big positive, you know, really lengthening the lineup. Jordan Thompson has played really good defense over the last week and is a good guy to be kind of just hiding out there in that 6 hole. And then, you know, with DiGiacomo, Dugas, we've had a really good flow to the lineup. And, you know, it's a hard group to get through 2, 3, or 4 times. I mean, really one team's done it. We've only had 1 game where we've scored less than 5, which I think shows a model of consistency and that you're never that far away from scoring. Really pleased with the pitching staff. Coach Kelly has done a really good job. Enjoy working with him. He's got those guys in a good frame of mind. They're throwing strikes. They're competing. There's a number of guys that can make a positive contribution. We're doing it probably a little different than the normal model or maybe even how either of us would want to do it, but I think it's right for this team. But it's been fun. Like I said, I mean, last night it's like, you know, Helmers to Gervais to Reiselman to Collins to Cooper to Dutton to Fontenot. And people are probably going like, what the heck are they doing? But it's good. It's fun. And then defensively, we had a rough weekend in Houston. But when you're here and you're dealing with good players that have pride in what they're doing and they just stick to it and work, we've only mishandled one play in the infield in the last 5 games. And so very pleased with the way that's trending. And now we're just excited to move forward. And, everybody's, we'll label the SEC thing, and we get it, but it's going to be this weekend, and then we're going to move on to next week. And so it's good days ahead. Really, really pleased, like I said, more than anything with the competitive nature of the team.
I love it. Dude, it's been fun to watch the bats, the arms, and I went on Moscona's show yesterday too, and he was like, well, talk to us about I'm like, dude, it doesn't matter. They're, 20 games into the year. They're just starting SEC. Like, everybody's roles will be defined when when the lights really come on and the games really, really matter and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
right?
and for me, the role is to help your team win in the position you're put in to be successful. And that's really all I try to do is like, hey, what lane can I put a guy in where I know he can be successful, and then pass it to the next guy. And yeah, it's LSU. We've got pro players on the field, but every one of our players has some kind of limitation. Otherwise, they wouldn't be here. They'd be in the major leagues. And so we just try to set them up for success. And really, it's a different way of doing it, and that's okay. All I've done in my career is look at the best guys. Going back to when I was a young coach, Coach Burtman's ability to motivate, or Coach Maneri's ability to motivate, who are the best, hitting an offensive guys, and then build a foundation and then infuse our own deal into it and pitching wise. And like I said, I think guys will emerge and will take more as they go. But right now I feel like we've set it up best for what we have. And I'm excited to see those guys continue to succeed.
I agree, and I like that you're doing it a different way. I had Mikhail on my podcast too, and he says that I won't give away too much of the details, but you guys do some breathing stuff. You guys have, I love that because I think that's such an important part. There's so much, innovative information coming out about that stuff. The mental side, I'm a big meditator, so I love that you're doing that stuff and mixing that stuff in.
Yeah, I think for me, it's like the day is the day, the task is the task. If you live before that, it's not going to help you in the present. If you live in the future, it's not going to help you in the present. And if you think about, like, if I wanted to be known for anything, it's like, hey, man, our team was really good at just playing one pitch at a time and staying, like, locked in on what's right now. Because baseball's hard enough. Yeah. So if you add something to the task of executing a pitch, taking a quality at bat, making a defensive play, all it does is complicate it, and it's already a really hard game.
I love it. I was going to leave our listeners with one thing, but I feel like you just kind of did that. You were like, if we get known for one thing, this is it. But if there's anything else you'd like everybody to know, or where to find you, if you have social media or anything like that, I'll put it all in the show notes. But really appreciate your time. I know you got so many things going on, and I want to get you back over there so you can get ready to go take care of the business this weekend.
Awesome. Thanks, Anthony. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man.